Coming up on That's a Great Point.
Right? You show up on stage and you have 30,000 people there to see you. They're not going to care that that you have a hangover and your mom hates you and your wife's leaving you. They want you to perform what they paid money for, and you owe them that. And so if you want to work with people like that, or you want to be a person like that, you have to understand when you're doing the job, you're doing the job. Nothing else matters.
Hey there, on today's episode, we have special guest Cansafis Foote, one of the most genuinely helpful, amazingly authentic humans I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, without whose guidance this podcast wouldn't even be possible. Cansafis is the co-founder of UIU, a video production company responsible for helping some of the biggest names in Hollywood. We talk about what it takes to show up professionally so that we can have opportunities to work with some amazing people like this. Cansafis also runs a writer's gym that gives feedback to writers so they can improve their writing. So we talk a lot about what it takes to unlock our own inner creativity. We talk about how important it is to have fun in our work, and we talk about what it takes to love ourselves and plenty of other innuendos as well. If you find our information helpful, please like and subscribe. It helps other people to find our podcast more easily. Thanks a ton for playing along. Enjoy. Welcome to That's a Great Point, the attitude adjustment for your soul, where co-hosts Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart discuss deep topics around a life well lived. Let's start the show.
Right.
Man, it's all right. So yeah, if you can't hear us, then it's kind of difficult to have a conversation, but I'm willing to bet you could probably pull it off.
If there was ever anyone who would talk to himself for an hour and a half and show it to people, you've met that man right now. How y'all doing? Let me get rid of me on the screen so I don't just stare at my face the whole time. Hey, look at me right over there. Gone. I'm good.
Not a bad
you guys,
thing.
I mean, listen, tell me if I look ugly. But now I can't see myself. So if all of a sudden like the sun shows up and I get blown away,
No.
and if
No,
you
we
get
see
blown away
you.
by my beauty, you just let me know that too.
We're blown away. We're finding words.
Yeah.
I honestly, right now, I'm wishing I was gay. Like, no, hands down. That's just, it's on my list of things to try. You know,
It's
There's a
the
couple
long
quick
hair.
ways to do that. Yeah, I think it's the long everything. I think is what he's thinking about. It's the long game in total. Listen, it's a
The
hard
long
decision.
game.
It's a hard decision. We're gonna, you're gonna have to really work up to it in order if you want to get into this lifestyle. It's up to you.
Yeah, buddy. So I want to introduce you to the crowd, to the audience. You, my friend, one of my favorite people on the planet, Cansafis Foote. So you want to go ahead and tell them what you do and what you stand for and so on and so forth?
Wow, that's a lot. What do I stand for? I'm like the whole values and everything about me laid out. My name is Cansafis Foote. I was born of two Polish immigrants. Just kidding. None of that is true. I don't even exist. My name's Cansafis. What I stand for is a good time. People ask me all the time. They go, "What does your name mean?" And I go, "This. This is what it means. This is me. I exist." And I'm a writer, a mentor, a editor, run a production company called UIU, and basically work with creative people to help them create. That's the majority of my workday is spent. And what that means is someone being like, "Will you do a 5:30 a.m. podcast with me tomorrow?" So the answer is always yes. The answer is yes. So if you ask me to do something, usually I say yes.
Nice. Yeah. So confidentiality, you can't mention who you work for, but I've seen some of the work that you've done, and it's for some of the biggest names in the world as far as comics go.
Yeah. So privacy, letting people be private, blah, 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 blah. I'm not allowed to publicly state who we work for, but yes, some of the largest comedians in the world with some of the biggest comedy podcasts in the world. We help them set up their studios. We run the daily operations for recording those podcasts. We cut clips, cut the pods, handle all content operations, live streams, blah, 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 whatever it entails that goes into a show, we do it. And yeah, we're working with folks that have been in that industry for decades and have success at the highest levels, sitcoms, current TV shows, stuff like that. And yeah, it's a murderer's row of talent that we get to work with, and the talent that they bring in that we get to see and be a part of is mind blowing. Sometimes you kind of got to pinch yourself and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I just met so-and-so. Maybe I'll mention a couple names later, but I can't mention my client names just out of respect for their privacy, even though these aren't very private people. It's a weird thing. But anyhow, this is what's been requested of me, is to, keep some reason that under the wraps. But let's just say that if you go to UIU.lol, you can figure it out pretty quickly who we work for and what type of stuff we produce for them.
That's so indicative of you and what you stand for, that your damn URL name is .lol.
Well, it's funny because I work with comedians, but I also work with coaches. I also work with writers. I also work with people that work in political think tanks, work with people that work in corporations and in tech and in Web3 and in crypto and all those sorts of things. So like the client list is very wide, but the LOL, I think, is integral to definitely my personality, but also the business's personality, which is, if you work with us, it's going to be a good time. And if it's not a good time, you probably don't want to work with us, because that's what we like to do. That's who I like to be. And yeah, I think, I wrote a piece this week on the old Substack. It seems like everyone's got a Substack, but we don't need to get into the philosophy of what people are doing on the internet. Anyhow, about my values, which seems like this is helpful to this conversation. One of them is play. I'd say one of my major values is play. And the concept that I was talking about this week over there was like, do you think Shaq, when he pulls up NBA 2K, chooses himself, or does he choose another player? And it's an interesting question, right? If your life was a video game, would you want to be you, or would you want to be someone else? And I'm asking you right now, flipping the tables on this podcast and saying, literally, in a video game of your life, who do you want to play?
I like me. Like, I would totally want to hang out with me.
Would you want to play as you or play with yourself?
That's what I think I heard.
Yeah. This was a long, we're just getting to it. We're just getting, like I said, long, hard question I'm asking you.
It sounds like Lee needs another mirror. I think that's what I hear.
How about you, Alina? Would you play as yourself, with yourself?
I like me. I think that's a lot of the work that I've been doing, and the work that I do with others is I like me, and what doesn't rub me the right way, to continue our innuendo string, continues to get worked out. Right?
Nice.
It's an evolution, but I like it. I'm all about like staying in and processing and like facing it, not running away, deflecting. Like, I'm not going to put on some other character's costume and play, unless it's a special occasion. Again, it is in the day-to-day life. This is the life I want to live, and whatever isn't sitting with me well gets addressed.
It's awesome. And you know what's funny is that's what I was expecting, and not in a bad way. It's just, I feel like what both of you do as humans, as coaches out there in the world, I think it's really important to be deeply embedded and invested in yourself and the work, and to really enjoy playing with yourself in front of others on Zoom calls. Yeah, this
I
is
don't
great.
know what else people do all day, but that's what's
Well,
up here.
I don't know. I'll have to check OnlyFans and see what happens. But
Oh my Lord.
I think things happen all day long. Things happen
And it's
all day long.
really, that is definitely like a value we share, is play. And yeah, who would we be? I'll speak for myself, and I know I can speak for Lee. Who would I be if I run away from my life and I deflect, and like, then how am I? That would be a total hypocrite. I wouldn't want to work with me. So it's like, I am the person that I would have needed for so many years and didn't get to have in my life. And now I get to be that person, and I get to be more and more of that person every day. I'm curious about you. Lee, what were you going to say? And then I
Yeah,
have
I was actually thinking that I spent a long portion of my life wishing to be somebody else, wishing I can get somewhere else, um and doing the work has led me to a place to where it's like, oh wow, the best thing I could possibly be is the most authentic version of myself. Uh, the more the more I show up as me and just let loose and quit worrying about what everybody else is thinking, the better time everybody has.
of all the things, like, I'm curious about how you got to be here today. So,
Mm.
if space is lots of people want to do the kinds of things that you get to do with the people that you get to do it with. And
Mm.
those people continue choosing you.
Yeah.
And, right? They continue, it sounds like you continue choosing each other. And I'm curious how you got to be here.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. How did I get to be here? And I won't digress too much, but I'll keep it tied to the idea of you want to work with the upper echelons of people in creative industries and the upper echelons of people really in any industry, which I have. I've worked at major tech companies. I've worked at major toy companies. I've worked at major advertising companies, major movie companies. And I'm working with individual talent, all of the highest caliber, people that make a lot of money, really succeed beyond money, succeed in terms of, fame, attraction, talent, whatsoever. And it boils down to one thing if you want to work in those worlds. And it's, no, I had a joke. I was going to do it. I'm holding back because I think everyone knows where the joke goes in Hollywood. Just being really good on a couch is what matters. But no, honestly, everyone wants to feel that way and think it. And there are sleazy people in all industries, and I've met them. The people I work with are not sleazy. The people I work with are incredibly talented, insanely hardworking, and who they want to work with are service providers. They want to work with folks. I have a background in the service industry. I DJ once a week at a high-end restaurant and bar over in San Francisco. I've been DJing for decades, ever since I was in high school, and bartending, and have worked in service industries alongside my work in professional corporate and individual corporate spaces, and providing service at an expert level with expertise, like holding your expertise and providing it and really satisfying all expectations that are needed in terms of deliverables, timelines, deadlines, information holding, privacy, etc. All those sorts of things that one might expect when they're playing the game at that high level is something that I focus on and the company focuses on to provide. So, when we edit something, we want it to look beautiful. We're constantly paying attention to the technology as it expands, whether this is cameras, whether this is editing tools, whether this is AI stuff, whatever's needed to continue to stay at the forefront of the industry, paying attention to trends, all that sort of stuff kind of sits in the brain load, and we carry that into any relationship that we start with someone. Step beyond that, so at least I'm capable at what I say I do. Like, you have to start there. Step beyond that, I'm interested in doing exactly what the client wants. When you go to a fancy restaurant, you want it to be a fancy experience. You want to have a delicious meal. If the food doesn't taste exactly like you expect it to taste, we're going to take it back and we're going to bring you back what you need. It's all about ensuring that the client gets exactly what they need and want. And so it's a lot of conversation, I think, in the beginning stages of any relationship that we start. I got 4 client calls this week, and each one generally starts with a whiteboard where I kind of try to understand. You've done this, both of you have done this with me, but I try to really understand who the person is, what their goals are, the many different ways we could get to those goals so that we can speak the same language. In some cases, folks are coming to you, they already know the goals of what they want. I talked to this potential client last week, and it was a 2-hour conversation about how much they want to become Mr. Beast. And it's like, cool, got you. There's a roadmap. We know what you want to do. Let's think about how you differentiate, because there's only one Mr. Beast. And so at that point, you're pivoting to strategy and trying to help someone say the goals, the ambitions, the space you're going to perform in, all those things pretty much make sense because of the words you've used to get me to this. But what are the ways that we can actually do this for you? What are the ways that we can actually figure out how to take you semi-unknown professional and turn you into, YouTube celebrity. And it's an interesting conversation. I think this is where if depending on the level of folks that you're working with, whether it's someone ambitious looking to go up or someone who's already at the top, the thing that you'll see with the clients that you originally asked this question around is they know exactly what they want and how they want it. And it's a really quick conversation to tell you exactly what they want and how they want it. And all you have to do is listen and do that. And if you listen and do that and don't, I think there's an inherent want amongst many creatives to be creative right now, right? Like my thing, I want to put into this thing. But when you're in a relationship where you're getting paid to do work for someone, their thing, you're doing their thing, and their thing's the only thing that's important. And your skills on your thing are why you're able to do their thing. Your skills doing your thing, you do that in your extracurricular hours. You work on your thing on the side. And when you get better at their thing, you can accept that that's making you better at your thing because you're witnessing this thing, you're experiencing this. And so really, again, it all boils down to like, be the best bartender, right? And that doesn't mean you're flipping cocktail bottles. You can be that if you want to be that type of bartender. It just means when I come up and I say, I want a Manhattan, I say, what kind of whiskey do you want? You want that neat or on the rocks? Is this glass okay? Whatever you need to do to provide that person the best drink experience that, they're going to have so that they order a second one. And so they come back the next day. Really, you're just dealing with alcoholics all the time and feeding them booze.
That's what I just heard.
Yeah, I should have just started off with that. If you want to work with the best talent in any industry, get drunk.
It all starts with a Manhattan. Got it.
That's right. That's right. Get them as drunk as possible. And then say like, do you mind filling out this contract right here? You're going to love it.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard a few things as you were talking. One is do what you say you're going to do for sure. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it on time every time. And two is there's this piece about when you go to serve somebody, if you're really, really good at what you do, you can meet their needs before they even realize they need them. So there's that. What else? God dog, there's so much here. Making sure that you are serving them and not yourself. Because it's if you're working for somebody else, it is about them and it's not about you. So
yeah, and I'd like to dial in there a little bit too, because so much about creativity is learning. Like it's a lot of doing and making, right? But it's really, if you want to do and make a lot of stuff and not have it be routine and cookie cutter, to have it be interesting, to have it be innovative, to have it be carving new spaces, you have to be soaking in and learning new things. And I think the great opportunity of all that work that I told you when I look back at my career up to this point is I've had a wide variety of opportunities to do a wide variety of things. And each of those things taught me something that I could bring into the next thing. And so that openness, that willingness to learn and ask questions, I think, it's a common adage in the working world, which is like the person who gets a job is the one who asks, how can I help? Not can I get this job or what have you? And it's really like the more inquisitive you are, the better to a certain extent. Because at a certain point, it's just do the damn thing, right? Like do the work, and if you do the work well, more people want to work with you. And that's all clients that I've worked with since this company started have been word of mouth. Met this person, you need to work with this person. You need to do that thing. You should talk to these people. They do a good thing, and that's just it. It's a quality bar. Can you set a quality bar that people want to work with you? Can you be responsible? I think you find that with creatives. I think a lot of people kind of lambast the idea of a creative as someone who's, sleeping until 2 p.m. and taking off work at 5. And like, it's just not true. A lot of creative work is really hard work. And it's about showing up and doing it well.
There's a song about that.
I think so.
LL Cool J.
Yeah, I think that's what he was talking about in that song, if I remember the music video correctly.
Yes, service delivery, 100%.
He's definitely a service provider.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing a lot of themes around integrity, and I'm hearing a lot of, to use the cliche, like obsessed with customer experience. And so constantly soaking in new, never resting on your laurels. Always being humble and open to learning, right? Never being done with the learning. and really hearing and listening to the other person. And it's something that, and Lee and I went to, that's how we met in coaching school. And one of the principles that we were taught is the idea of holding the client's agenda. We're not talking to the person and transposing our own wishes and desires onto that person. That's in our service. That's selfish.
Right.
That's about us. Right? It's like I'm thinking of a mother-daughter conversation. Like, well, you should just go and do this. And why can't you do that when, the parent lives vicariously through the child? It's no
Mhm.
longer about the child, it's about the parent. So in a similar way, when you're serving, when it's about that person, what I hear you talk about is, yes, you can have a million thoughts and directions and changes of direction. Like, you should do this instead. You should. Sentences that start with you should.
Right.
And instead, you really listen and you tune in to, and you use your intuition and your experience to understand what is it that they're saying that they want.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, unfortunately, the way the world's been created, the majority of our time is spent working, right? At least 50% of our time for most people. If you're lucky enough that you're living a life where you're not working that much, God bless you, please pay me. But in this world where you have to work, you have to invest in your work. You have to find some joy in it. And even if it's the worst job you've ever had in the world, you got to find something to enjoy, something to take from it, something to learn from it, so that when you get to that next job, you never end up back in that job. Right? I've worked some horrible jobs as a creative, and there's a little bit more to my story that I think might be fun to pepper in here, because there's a lot of struggle to get here where I'm still struggling. And the struggle, at a certain point, you got to love it. You just got to love that you might be exactly who you want to be, right? You might be playing your best character, and you might want to play your character. And I love me. I'm into me, and I might want to be other characters too, because, I'm psychotic like that. But I love each and every moment and opportunity I've had at every stage that I've played to get here. And even though maybe the game wasn't my favorite while I was doing it, I was still so thankful to be even playing a game. And so, like, bringing back to that core value of play, it's like, can you find joy in the mundane, right? I'm going to just process a bunch of files after this, right? I'm going to go read 500 words of an essay that I want nothing to do with, but I'm going to think about it. I'm going to live in it. And by vicariously assisting that person in what they need to be a better person, or what their work needs to be the exact work to go public, I'm going to learn something in that experience, and I'm going to be better because of it.
So pain with purpose.
Yeah. Well, and also just like accept reality as you have it, right? And it doesn't mean you don't go out and try to change it, but it's like maybe embrace reality might be an even better way to put it. If you're in situations you put yourself are, and you are, right? Regardless of how many different situations have brought you to that you might not have had a hand in, creating or playing. You have to enjoy the current moment if you want to get to a different enjoyable moment. It's if you're constantly living in misery and doubt and judgment, and I hate my job and this isn't as creative as I want it to be, well, guess what? You're not going to be working in that industry very long, because the best people in every industry, but especially in creative industries, are the people that just focus and work and do and do and do. And what's wild, and why you need to be open to their needs more than anything, the levels they attend to, while it might look similar, they're very different. And the roads that these clients take to get where they're going are very different. So then the things that they need, the services that you provide them, might have similarities, but there's a different way of doing it. There's a different way of approaching it, different way of holding that conversation. So being nuanced in yourself, it's a classic LinkedIn cliche to say, I speak to all levels. But the reason it's cliche and all over LinkedIn is because that really is a talent that a lot of people appreciate and need. When you work at a company with 1,000 people, being able to talk to the intern and being able to talk to the CEO and provide information to both of them that's useful is a great means of keeping that job and continuing to grow your own.
It's a whole lot of awareness. It's a whole lot of awareness, which there's another thing I'm really curious about. and you kind of started talking about it a little bit ago, that it isn't, being creative it's kind of scheduled, right? You are going to read an essay, you're going to do what needs to be done to do what this person, this client needs, right, in his highest service. It is a 9 o'clock wake up. It isn't over at 5 o'clock or whenever that start of the day. When creativity needs to be scheduled, when creativity needs to be predictable, what mindset tips might you share of how you get yourself in a creative space where you may not be walking into it feeling creative?
Yeah, I think there's a good way to think about it. Maybe, I guess, a boring way to think about it is the old learning to ride a bike. But like you're learning creatively, you're learning to ride a bike every single day. So when I show up, I write with chaos. I create with chaos. I play loud, crazy music. My poems are abstract and dirty. My storytelling is, all over the place with central concepts. And for me, my version of play might look like a mess to others, but it's an organized symphony of destruction for all the Guns N' Roses fans out there in the world.
Megadeth.
Well, whatever. This is for the Guns N' Roses fans, but it is Megadeth. You're right. Anyhow, great record too. Is that Rust in Peace or is it whatever it is? I digress, and I've failed heavy metal and rock and roll at the same time in one idea. But the point being, in order to make my symphony of destruction, I sit down at 3 a.m. on Monday mornings with a movie on television and silent, my dog at my feet, and it takes me about 20 minutes to get into my prose and my ideas and my cons, but my prose, my actual writing. And when I'm in, I'm in. You feel it. So you have to have patterns that can take you there. And you also have to be open to, okay, I don't feel it. I don't have this. I'm going to create with that. That's my paint set today because I need to make something. And if you follow your feelings while you're working on a creative thing, inevitably you will come out of it with something. Now, whether or not that's the exact thing you want it to be doesn't matter, because most good creativity, in my opinion, isn't of the improv variety. Improv brings you there. Feedback, editing, repeating, practicing, that allows your improv to be one, step beyond that. Your improv becomes performance the more you practice it. Yeah. So if you're a creative person, it really is. Where is that time? That's one of the times I write. 3 a.m. Monday mornings, right? It's in the middle of the night. It's totally quiet. I have no distractions. I can focus in on what I'm doing and I can make up that sleep elsewhere. So that's what I have to do. Sometimes I do that in the afternoon. It's blessed. Sometimes I'm like, I have to write right now. I don't have anything to write with. I'll use my voice and I'll do it. So you have to take what you have available and work with it. And I think you also just have to be comfortable that you need to be doing it. You need to be doing it and doing it and doing it well.
Yeah.
Got some more LL Cool J.
Yeah, there's definitely a period that when you first start creating, no matter what it is, it sucks. It's going to suck. And you expect it to suck. And then you just keep going forward and eventually you start to become better. And as you start to get better at it, then it's like, oh, this is getting to be a little bit fun. Once it becomes fun, it starts to flow a little bit easier. Yeah, I hate the idea of let's just force it out. Just make it happen. And because you said this thing a while ago, sometimes you just follow those feelings and then you'll end up where you need to be. So there's a lot of just listening to the internal and following what your heart, what your gut is trying to tell you, rather than I'm going to logically force this thing into being.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of creativity is that, right? It's spirit. Both of you have chosen this profession. You're sitting here talking into these microphones and talking to folks like me because you're invested in this art form. And if you want to be a painter, you have to paint. I mean, it's so boring and, again, cliche, but the cliches are cliche because cliche is cliche. as I like to say. And what that means is that, you know, it's real, right? Saxophonist plays the saxophone. A writer writes. And if you want to be all those things, then you got to find time for all those things, which is what I do, which is a little bit of too much of anything. But that's fine. That's good. You know, the choices you make and invest in. Now, I will say to that end, as someone who's a autodidact and a multi-stream creator, that the best creators in any field stick to one thing and stick to that thing over and over and over again. The true masters of the craft, the folks that reach the highest heights in that craft, devote exclusively to that craft, and at the loss of other things. You're going to have to give up other pursuits and passions to perfectly pursue that core passion, whatever it might be. So that's another thing just for creatives to consider out there. If you want to be a multi-instrumentalist, if you want to be Flava Flav, by all means do so. Flava Flav rules. But, you know, Chuck D's of the world are taking it a little bit further. Though that's, I don't know. Flava Flav's come all the way around after House of Love and House of Flav, you know. So these things might be taking a turn now. The multi-instrumentalists might be having their moment.
Well, that's a great thought about, it's a great point about, can people really multitask? Can you really cultivate multiple new talents all at the same time? Or is it really one thing at a time? Like, how much of it is be where you are, be present?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of people say that just the idea of even being able to multitask is a lie. To which I say, look at both these hands talk at the same time. I don't agree with that wholeheartedly. I do agree that if you are pursuing something, that the more you can focus it in on what you're pursuing, the more likely you are to get what you're pursuing. If you want to catch that rabbit in the field, you focus on that rabbit and that rabbit exclusively. You don't care that there's 600 rabbits in the field. You want that rabbit. And I think, you know, it's important to know yourself. Bringing it back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. You have to know yourself. You have to be able to play yourself. You have chosen yourself. You have chosen your character. You are playing this, and you have to know what your attributes are. And if you don't have the attributes you need to get to the place that you want to go, well, then you got to go out there and kill enough rabbits to get enough hit points to, you know, level up into a level 32 cleric or warrior or whatever it is that you're doing. But, you know, role play yourself, people. That's what I'm saying. That's right. Role play everywhere. But it's real. I mean, it's important as creators to find focus, even if your focus is on a plenitude. If you are a multitasker, well, then focus on what you're multitasking and how you can multitask better and why that's exactly what you're doing. Become passionate about multitasking, which sounds absurd, but man, I bet that person has an interesting job. Whoever that is, right? Because I think they call them generalists these days. The generalist is the great multitasker. And I have a friend who went from being a generalist to a COO of a tech company. 2 steps, 26 years old, making 10x what I've ever made in my entire life. And it's because they invested into being that thing, into pursuing that aspect, and that aspect what was needed to do this next specific role. Someone was looking for someone with those attributes. So it's doable. It's totally doable.
It's doable with intentionality, right? It isn't something that you stumble over, like fall into, and all of a sudden you're amazing, and all of a sudden the opportunities happen. There's intentionality and repetition and discipline, and it isn't like there could be joy in what we experience, how we experience it, but there isn't always novelty, right? It isn't always shiny and new.
Isn't always shiny and new. Sometimes it's not fun, right? You know, last week I had 2 DJ gigs. I hosted a bingo party. I had to edit 25 different essays. I had to edit 18 different videos. And yeah, at a certain point, I'm like, I can't move as a human being. And I'm just going through the paces because I have the paces practiced. So even that I'm not performing at 100%, I'm performing 100% of what I can perform. And that's important because it got me over the finish line. I accomplished all those things. And by the time I was done, no one was dissatisfied. Each and every one of those events went well. Each and every one of those, actions that I took was top notch. And that's all the practice. It's all the practice. That's because I've edited hundreds of thousands of videos. That's because I've edited thousands of essays. That's because I've DJ'd thousands of times. Being able to know how to do those things when you get into those situations where it might be less about absolute pure creativity and more about performance, well, now you're prepared because you spent all those moments being creative, finding all these different places that you needed to bring to give you the energy to do the thing when you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You show up on stage and you have 30,000 people there to see you. They're not going to care that you're, that you have a hangover and your mom hates you and your wife's leaving you. They want you to perform what they paid money for, and you owe them that. And so if you want to work with people like that, or you want to be a person like that, you have to understand when you're doing the job, you're doing the job. Nothing else matters.
Yeah,
And that might seem cool. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a humanist. I fight for humanist ideas. Anyone who reads my stuff can see like bare bones that I care about people. And I do think that the way society is set up is stacked for power more than it's stacked for growing and or creating power. But that said, we know that's the game we're playing. So if we know that's the game we're playing, being accepting of what it is, even if you want to fight it, the more you accept what it is, the better you can fight it. Again, another possible cliche, but it's real. It's like you want to have the best weapons to go out there in the field and to start a war with. You better understand what weapons the other side has, right? It's like it's just the way it is. You want to win that war, you better know where their tanks are set. You better know where their submarines are at. You better know that they have this brand new plane type that shoots like this and has AI technologies. Otherwise, you aren't winning a war.
Yeah. You remind me of Stephen Pressfield's book, Turning Pro. Such a phenomenal book. And it's like, you got to show up. Like, if you want to do a thing, show up and do the thing. And all the excuses don't matter. Just like what you said, like, if you're doing work for somebody, they don't care what's going on in the background. They would care about getting that work done to the best of your ability. If you want to be a writer, show the fuck up and write as if it's a job. Because we deal with a lot of, or I personally deal with a lot of self-employed people. And I'll ask people on a regular basis, would you work for you? And sadly enough, most of the time the answer is no. It's like, no, I don't do what I tell myself I need to do. It's like, whew, man, oh man.
That is an integrity leakage. Big one.
A self-esteem leakage, a self-worth leakage, so on and so forth. Like, if you don't do what you say you're going to do for yourself, it's straight down from there. It's like, you'll never trust yourself from that point forward.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we're all three very confident, very positive people that clearly love ourselves. But I'll be frank. There are moments every single day where I hate myself. There are moments every single day where I'm uncomfortable with myself. There are moments every single day where I doubt myself. And then I remember who I am. And it's you can change. You don't have to live in the versions of yourself that you don't like. You don't have to be the version of yourself that you don't want to be. But it's awareness. It is awareness. You have to, and you have to figure out how to build awareness. I can act without self-awareness because I have awareness.
That's it. That's it. You're talking about the neural pathways that you've built by repetition, by the actions that you've taken. When you take enough actions, enough times, you're creating new paths, new roads. And then they become the default setting. And then there doesn't need to be so much efforting to change our setting because we've done the work. We will continue to do the work. If you don't continue to do the work, grass will grow and it'll get wild again. Then you'll have to explore and make a new path all over again. But when you've done the work, the maintenance mode feels a whole lot less of a lift than creating a brand new road.
Yes. I have a core philosophy that I discovered probably at the depths or heights of my, depression. Let's say my personal depression. There's probably a sexier word for what I was truly experiencing, but it's called do something different every day. And that it is such a simple concept, and it saved my life. And basically I bottomed out. I'm alone at my house that I share with my wife, with my 2 dogs on the couch. And I was in a mind space where I'm like, I need to call a suicide hotline. I need to talk to a stranger, because otherwise I'm going to just die. I'm going to do it, or someone else is going to do it. I don't know. I was at that. This is what's going on in my mind, right? How I got to that point, we don't need to talk about it. Story for another day. A million different cuts, a million different paper cuts, a million different acceptances, different things that I had done to myself or others. None of that matters. I was at a point where I'm like, I need a stranger to help me. And so I call the first suicide hotline. It's no longer available. Okay, it's fine. There's more numbers. I call the second suicide hotline. It's a robot. And I'm talking to a robot, and I'm like, there's nothing more depressing than robots, right? So just hang up the phone. I'm like, that did not make me feel better, but I'm starting to feel better, because I'm like, this is fucking absurd. I call the third suicide hotline, and I get asked, can I put you on hold for a second? And that was it. I hang up the phone, and I am crying tears of laughter. I am on my couch, and I've never felt better in my entire life, because I realized I am such a fucking moron. I am the problem. I'm the problem. It's me, Taylor Swift. What up? But for real, I realized right then and there, I'm the problem. And if I really feel this bad, if I really feel so bad that I need some stranger who doesn't know me to validate how bad I feel and teach me how to feel good, I'm that stranger. And I don't know myself. And the only way I'm going to escape this prison that I've created for myself is if I make a change. And what's one thing I can do? At least something different. I know that all the steps brought me to this point in time, this moment. So if I keep living my life exactly how I'm living it, I will come back and continually meet the end of this level. There will be no boss there. The princess is in another castle, and here's where I am. And so woke up the next day, and I'm like, well, I've never done therapy. I'm going to do therapy. I've never done Reiki. I'm going to do Reiki. I've never gone to a hypnotist. I'm going to go to a hypnotist. I've never told this person about this. I'm going to tell this person about this. Started doing small things. Used to put my right sock on first. I put my left sock on first. Just once. You just have to do it once. Next day I'm back to the right sock. It doesn't matter. But if every day you do one action with intention that's different than the way you usually do it, you're butterfly affecting yourself. You're changing those pathways that you're talking about. And now all of a sudden, and it was real, I started feeling different. Didn't always feel good, didn't always feel, but I felt different. I was like, oh, I've never felt this before. I didn't remember this thing before. And all of a sudden, all these different doorways are opening. Some major, many minor, some of them unknowable. But the entirety, I like just saying things sometimes, the entirety of it all had changed, had altered. And, I think that's such a simple thing that anyone can do at any point. And frankly, if you're in a really good space, it's still another thing you can do, because you might be in a really good space, but you might be plateauing at some point, right? This is it. I do that. I love this cheese sandwich. I'm going to eat this cheese sandwich every day, just every day, the same cheese sandwich. And that's good. But how are you going to know about the Cheeto sandwich if you don't try it? Variety. It's important. You got to do something different every day.
There is so much that I love and appreciate about what you've just shared. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm grateful that we can share a laugh about the absurdity of one suicide hotline is no longer active and one gets you a robot. That is absolute absurdity. And the realization that you came to, which I'm really grateful for, that you get to be the hero who rescues you in the story. That's you. That person coming to rescue you, that's you.
Right.
And the disorientation that you're talking about I'm loving that you brought this up. There are so many clients that I work with who feel stuck. They don't know the next step, right? And they're frustrated with the stuckness. And one of the things that we'll often do is, what is the smallest, tiniest little unit of measure where you can do something differently? And that will be things like, if you brush your teeth, if you start brushing your teeth on the left side, tomorrow you're doing it on the right. If you walk to work, to the train station on this side of the road, tomorrow you're crossing the street, you're going to walk on the other side. If you usually get dressed with this sequence, right, you're changing the sequence. You're picking the smallest things and you're going to experience them differently. And they're teeny tiny little like beads that you stack, micro habits that you stack. And once you've done enough changing, and I love that you talk about remembering yourself. Sometimes to remember ourselves, we need to step into a new room and be in a different place. And that's how we get to meet ourselves again. Sometimes it isn't where we always are situated. It's not in our living room.
It can be very easy to sleepwalk through life. We get so caught up in our routines and our habits that all of a sudden just the brain turns off and we just keep going through habits mindlessly. And that is not a good place to be. We start to look at what it takes to be happy, what it takes to live a good life. It's be present, be here. Which that's what these habits do. They break you out of the cycles that you've managed to fall into, to where you can actually start to change your neurochemistry to be more present in the moment. And anxiety is worry about the future, and depression is rumination about the past. So we start to talk about being happy. It's need to be here right now.
Yeah. Well, and everyone's living a life, right? Let's say you have the simplest, everyone has a goal. Even the Buddhist monk whose entirety of their life is going to be meditation. That is their goal. That is their pursuit. So if you're someone out there in the world and you're like, I want to do this thing and I want to do that thing, whatever the thing, or with most people, it's things. Well, the reason you're not doing that thing or these things right now is because they require a series of steps. And if you want to accomplish things, if you want to become something, if you want to go someplace, you're going to have to do certain steps. There's a reason you're not there right now. There's a reason you're not that right now. And the only way to figure out what those steps are is to take other steps to get there. So it's like, it's investing in the opportunity to do things that you haven't done before is the easiest way to become who you want to become. And so bring it back to the beginning of the conversation. Like, how do you get to work with amazing people? How do you get to work on gigantic projects or, businesses doing incredible things that you want to be a part of? By trying, by going out there and trying and pursuing whatever it takes to get into that place. And
stepping out of the comfortable is what I'm hearing. Like, stay in your comfort zone. You stay exactly where you are. So you gotta go do things that are a little bit outside of the normal. They're a little bit outside of, just comfortable.
Yeah, you work on garbage trucks. You're a garbage truck driver, right? But you really want to be doing stand-up. So maybe it starts by you're doing jokes to your buddy on the garbage truck, right? And that's good. They're like, you're funny. You should do stand-up. Okay, so then maybe you go and read a book on how to do stand-up next. Okay. And you're still telling the same jokes or new jokes to your buddies. And then now maybe you're like, I'm going to go to a stand-up class that I have time on Sundays to do, whatever it is that's going to get you there. And then eventually I'm going to go to the open mic. I'm going to sit at the open mic and perform at the open mic. And then you're at the open mic and the crowd's going to be like, not funny. And so now you're going to know, I still want to be a stand-up and I'm not funny. Cool. You're going to go make more jokes and you're going to tell them to different people because you're funny for garbage truck drivers, but you're not funny for an audience full of strangers. And now all of a sudden you're iterating and you're tweaking because you're pursuing this one goal, which is, I am garbage truck driver. I want to be stand-up comic. So, it's in that stand-up comic, when they get there, who used to drive garbage trucks, there it is. There's your hero's story, right? there's the thing that you put on your webpage, and there's the reason why everyone cheers for you, because like this guy talks shit about garbage so perfectly, and you can use the elements of your journey to get you to where you want to be. And once you get to that place where you want to be, you better have other places you want to go to, because otherwise, like you say, if you're just where you are, you're never going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you are stand up now. Maybe you're only doing stand up. You're making enough money from stand up to be doing stand up for a living, but you're depressed because you're like, well, I want to be a bigger stand up comedian, or I want to travel more places, or I want to have my own TV show. Well, you're going to have to change things then to adapt to the circumstances of the goals that you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
loving the journey along the way.
Mm.
Yeah.
If we're
Yeah.
always having the goal in mind, it's being careful. I think it's important to be careful to not be dissatisfied because we haven't gotten there. To be like what we're talking about, be where you are, be present,
Yeah.
like love it, enjoy the living daylights out of it, and keep going.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's setting a goal. It's like once I get to that goal, then finally after all this time, once I reach that goal, then I can be happy. Then I'll be complete. Then I'll be fulfilled. And you reach the goal, it's like, oh, I didn't get it. Well, I have to set a bigger goal. Let's go bigger. Oh, we get there, and then didn't quite get the happiness, the fulfillment. It's like happiness, fulfillment is not a destination. It's a way of traveling. You
yeah.
travel
Well,
in that state, and then you actually end up in a better destination you ever thought.
to keep it in stand up for 1 second, everyone that's going to that state, everyone's doing that thing, right? Every stand up comedian makes themselves laugh. When they're writing, they're laughing at their thing, and then they're sharing that thing that made you laugh. So it's an audience of one. You are the audience at the end of the day. You're just sharing yourself with people, and that's the same in every job. Every great accountant knows they're a great accountant internally, forever, but internally, right? And you're so right, Lee and Alina, just to be so deeply where you are and to appreciate that is probably the most important part of the journey, because every day is part of the journey, right? The destination is just an awesome part of the story. It's just it's just another chapter, and the destination hopefully leads to another destination. But the content, if you were to think about this like Lord of the Rings or what have you, it's the day-to-day to going after the ring, right? It's meeting Gollum along the way and telling that story. All of this is exciting. It's having a podcast at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to take your dogs out before that. It's being told that you're going to do another podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Every one of these steps is an important little piece of the journey, and they're all awesome. And they're all awesome in different ways. And it's a mindset, that's for sure. And one that I do think requires significant amounts of work to get to, because you have to consider that there are so many times during the day where it's like, am I really enjoying this? Do I really want to do this? Right? There's certainly, like, is taking a crap the most exciting thing of the day, or is it just something you have to do? Just putting it out there. For some people, it's very exciting. It's
exactly what I was going to say. For some,
the removal of pain is quite pleasurable.
Listen, a lot of people get off on that stuff. I'm totally cool with it. The point being, whatever like your lowest low of the day is probably a pretty big high if you think about it. If your lowest low of the day is maybe taking a crap, it's a pretty big high. You're relieving some pain. You're having a good time in there. All right. You're reading the comics, whatever you're doing. So it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of practice. It's a matter of awareness. It's all that stuff happening in different sequences.
This Dr. Rob McClellan said that recently to me. He's like, you know what? If that's the worst thing that happens to me today, I'm having a really good day.
Absolutely.
There's a piece of this conversation reminding me of today's card. So today's card is stop being afraid of what could go wrong and focus on what could go right.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, it's how this is, again, I'm going to have to say cliche because it's cliche not to say cliche at this point, but how lucky are we as human beings to get to experience what we experience?
Hell yeah.
How lucky are we to have this conversation? You know, how blessed, you might say, whatever approach you have, but you have to have gratitude for even having the opportunity. You know, worst case scenario, you're inside of a box. As a human being, you have the idea to imagine what's outside of the box. Now we can go back to the Plato cave and all that sort of stuff. If you've only grown up in a box, maybe you don't. And all you can imagine is being inside the box. People need to quit putting people in boxes, is what I'm saying. But the fact that we have this flesh and blood, that we are these complicated creatures, that we live in, you know, mass abundant opportunity times, albeit potentially difficult times for a lot of people. Even in that difficulty is the opportunity to make it less difficult. And that pursuit is pursuable. It's you got to take it. Excuse me. You have to take advantage of it. You have to take advantage of it. And it's, you know, it's, I think the cool thing is most people I talk to are, which is just a good reminder that the world, as ugly as it might seem and look or actually be, and if you know me, I've spent a lot of time thinking and considering about all the ugliness of the world, but here I am talking about how beautiful it is and how much opportunity it is. And it's the duality allows us to choose the light if we want to.
Yeah, it's easier to appreciate the sunshine because of the rain. You know, there are no superheroes without villains.
Yeah.
Superheroes cannot exist without villains.
Yeah. And listen, the world's ugly, right? Everyone should be really fucking pissed off about yesterday. All right? Like really fucking mad. If you weren't mad about yesterday, then you're not alive, because we got a garbage dump the size of the US hidden in the ocean. We got people getting blown to smithereens in multiple countries at the same time. There's a lot of shit we should be pissed off about yesterday. But if we are pissed off about that, great, because now we have something to do. Now we have something to fix. Now we have somewhere to go and to be. And so, like, even if you're invested in that anger or that injustice, even if you're invested in the depression, right? Life is sad. Life is like existentially difficult and sad. Someone died. I'm sad. This is awful. Loss hurts. You have the opportunity to see that. You have the opportunity to go for that. You have the opportunity to share that, to meet other people experiencing that, and to maybe find other places to go after that. And it's all these things are so real and available. And I think where we get locked up, where I get locked up sometimes, is like you just stick with it. You just choose one of those sides, one of those ideas, one of those places, and you just stick with it and you never leave it. And it's like, if, you know, one of my goals, see the entire world. One of my goals, to meet every person on earth. I'm not even bullshitting. It's a stupid goal or it's a great goal. I don't know. But if you're out there and you haven't met me, you should. But none of that is going to happen if I'm not constantly evoking change and new opportunity and trying to be new places, or at least being open to the idea of doing that. I hung out with a great man who I met online through writing last week. His name's Tony Olensky. He works in technology, and he was here from Warsaw. And I asked him, what are the two things you're trying to do with your life? You know, I told him my goals are see the world, meet all people, right? And he said, surprise and serendipity. And so he approaches each day when someone asks him something and he's not sure about it, he tries to think of a way to say yes. And he tries to find a way to find and live and see that opportunity. It was profound for me in the moment, because I was like, damn, I don't always do that. I actually spend a lot of time thinking about the no, or finding the counter to the thing. And that's one of my foibles as a person, is there's this other opportunity in front of me to do what you're doing. So it's been in the back of my brain, because I'm like, wow, I just found out something about myself that I didn't consider all the time. And now I'm going to have to consider that if I really want to make that change, if I want to evoke that same sort of, you know, Yeah, I mean, it's cool, and I was like, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed, and that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a huge idea that I love to run. Instead of I can't, it's what would have to be true so that I can.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mhm.
Hmm. I had that conversation with my daughter one day. She said something about, well, I would really like to attend NYU. Okay, we'll do it. Well, we can't because I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, what would need to be true? What would need to happen to turn this from I can't to I can?
Mm,
It's like, let's quit throwing these obstacles out there first. Let's start to know exactly what it would take to get you there.
Mhm.
Because that's how we live a life really, really well. It's like, oh, I want something. Instead of thinking about what you want via what do I think I can have, what do I think I can have is a surefire way to make sure that we're playing small. If instead we start to go, what do I really truly want? And what would it take to make that possible? Because if somebody else can do it, I could fucking do it.
What
Except
I'm
for be a jockey. I
hearing,
couldn't be a jockey.
don't be a jockey. What
I'm a
I'm
little bit
hearing,
large for that.
it's
what I'm
jockey.
hearing in our conversation is like the theme and like there's like a bow. There's a bow, the string, wrapping it all together. And it's awareness and agency is the word that keeps whispering in my ear. It's awareness of ourselves, of what we want, of our goals, awareness of what we have available to us. I love the way Cansafis talked about. That's the paint set I get today. Like I'm working with meh. That's what I'm working with today. That's my paint set. That's what I'm going to create with. And agency. Like I have control over even the smallest things, right? I can take the next step. I can choose to step out of inertia, take a risk, take that first step. Those are the two themes that I keep hearing over and over and over. Awareness, agency.
Hell yeah, I'm into it. I mean, that's it. Like, it's not it. I mean, but that's the beginning, right? That's the start. So for anyone out there who's looking to be, or get somewhere, owning those elements, having awareness, having agency is a surefire way to get there. It's a great starting point. And I would say openness is just another thing worth putting on the table, which is part of there. But like the principle of openness in the way that I'm using it right here is just that with every answer you have, can there be another answer? With every, with every path you see, might there be another path? And the reason why it's important to have that is because you might hike up that hill and think you're getting to the top of the mountain only to find that there's an unpassable climb there. So you're going to have to go back down and you're going to have to find another path to get up that mountain thing. And so being able to process that and own that from the beginning is a lot easier than if you're like, this is the way. And then you have to be so crushingly disappointed when you got to the top. And you're like, fuck it, I don't even want to go to the mountain anymore.
Yeah,
Right?
there's definitely a piece about we absolutely have to want it, but we also have to not need it.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
detach from outcome.
Yeah. Because if I
Yeah.
need that, if I need whatever that goal is, wherever I'm trying to go, if I need that to be whole, if I need that to be complete, well, then it's just a surefire way to be let down. And it's like this whole expectations versus reality idea that I talk about quite a bit. Like I expect that this is going to happen, but guess what? There's realities way down below that. And if there's a gap between the two of them, there's going to be some misery there, almost certainly. So,
Major goals and major people require major people around them, right? They require community. So if you're saying, I want that goal and I'm going for that thing and I'm going to go through you to get it, okay, good luck. Good luck when you get there. Good luck staying up there. You're going to have multiple people trying to take you down off that thing. If you say, I want that goal, I want to go up there. Have you ever been up there before? Do you know how to get up there? How do I get up there? all of a sudden, cool. You know what? I was planning on going up there too. Should we go up together? Might be easier that way. Right. And so that's that questioning, that needing to know others in order to do the things that you want to do. I mean, all these people, the clients we were talking about earlier, the amount of people they employ, it's absurd. The amount of people whose careers and lives depend on the work that they're doing is wildly high. And with very successful people, that's a portion of it. That success, you may see it as individualistic. I know I do sometimes. And I point at the big bads and I say, you know, whoever this person is a total dick. And guess what? They might be a dick in some capacity, but at the end of the day, they're also providing life and opportunity for many different people. And their life depends on those people enjoying and embracing and holding that life and opportunity. So there's something really to that that's worth seeing and at least, you know, embracing as the positive aspects of, you know, these climbs.
You can't do it alone. To go to new heights, you're going to want to do it with, you're going to want to change your environment, right? Or evaluate what needs to change about your environment. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, if you're an audience of one, it doesn't pay very well. Let's just leave it at that. You can make yourself laugh all day long at your jokes, but you aren't going to pay yourself. So, you know, that's going to keep you, you know, in that one place. And if that's that one place you want to be, then stay at that place and I'll come see you sometime. And it'll be amazing. I'll maybe laugh, or maybe I'll just, you know, hopefully laugh with you. I'm not sure. I just see this monk meditating and just saying jokes all the time to himself. And I think I really want to meet that monk. I really, like, you got to see this guy. He just cracks himself up all day long. It's incredible.
I feel like that should be like a Christmas stocking stuffer toy on Amazon.
The laughing monk. Yeah. It feels good. It's just like you unwrap a cave and there's just that's it. It's just constantly just laughing at their laugh. I love it. This sounds very joyful.
Remember this moment, this is how the product was born.
I have one last tip before we wind down. I don't know if we're headed there, if you guys have anything.
Yeah, it's time to wrap them up. You need to leave here in just a minute, Alina.
Yeah.
True statement.
Fear. I know it's something that both of you talk about and think about. I know it's something that you say to pursue, Lee. And the way that I use fear is I have an acronym, and this is for creatives, and I'm just sharing it because I think it's a useful way to do something. If you want to do something, if you want to make things, if you want to be creative, use fear. And by that, I mean fun, easy, accomplishable, repeatable. If you do a task and it's fun, yay, this is fun. You're going to like doing it. If you do a task and you've made it easy, cool. I can kind of do this thing. It's you know, it's fun and easy, right? I'm going to do it more. If it's accomplishable, it's accomplishable. It will actually be done. You're guaranteeing it'll be done. So you've chosen an accomplishable end to it. And then repeatable. If you repeat this, now all of a sudden, I'm practicing, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm going. So if you want to make things in this world, make them fun, make them easy, make them accomplishable, make them repeatable, and then you're going to be doing them. You're going to be repeating them. You're going to be having a good time doing it, and we're going to see them because you're going to be accomplishing them. It's easy. So there you go. Just want to put that out there for the world.
Thank you for that gem.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you guys for talking to me. I hope that was a good conversation for you. I hope it was as good for you as it was for me.
That's the best way to complete it. That's what he said.
Yeah, we can complete it, but you know, we can go for multiple if we want. If you guys have more time today, we can do this over and over and over.
A repeat.
Again. Yeah, that's right. I'll take all that fear and put it here.
Love it. Man,
Awesome.
Thanks for stopping by.
It's my pleasure. Y'all be well.
Here.
Enjoy
you to death. I'm gonna hit
enjoy the rest of the day. Y'all appreciate me to life as well. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to That's a Great Point with Alina Doran, Michelle Albers, and Lee Smart. To find out more about how we can serve you, check out our links in the show description. Thanks for playing along.